Hello YouTubers! I will be going through this week's games, review last week's tips and leaderboard of our footy tip comp, and also go through my Brownlow Votes for season 2025. My top 5 for the 2025 Brownlow medal after round 12 are: in top spot is B. Smith, Geelong with 25 votes. In second spot is N. Dagos, Collingwood with 20 votes. Two players tied in third spot on 16 votes are C. Sarong, Fremantle, and N. Anderson, Gold Coast. And in fifth spot with 15 votes is J. Dawson, Adelaide. These are my top 5 Brownlow votes after round 12. Let's look at my tips after round 12. Looking at the games, there were 7 games played, and unfortunately I only had 4 out of 7 correct. Not good enough. I got the Lions to beat the Bombers, I got the Maggies to beat the Hawks, Freo beat Gold Coast, got that wrong. The Giants just beat Richmond by 3 points. I tipped the Swans to beat the Crows, the Crows demolished Swans by 9 points. No good. St Kilda beat Melbourne at TIO Stadium in the Northern Territory, and Geelong helped me out to beat West Coast Eagles. That's 4 out of 7. Let's look at the ladder for the Talking Effing AFL footy tips. In top spot with 68 votes is I Am Hacks, followed 2 players tied on 67, which are Patrick L 32 and Potter 1. Then you have me in fourth spot on 66 votes. That's Talking Effing AFL. Alright, let's see who I tipped for round 13. Come on. Before we continue, I would like to ask for a very small favour. If you enjoy this AFL content, please take a sec to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That would be awesome. Okay, let's return back to the show. The first game of the week played on a Thursday night at Marvel Stadium is the Western Bulldogs against Hawthorn Hawks. Last week the Bulldogs had a bye, whereas the Hawks lost to Collingwood by 51 points on a Friday night. The players injured for the Doggies are Croft, Darcy, Garcia, Jones and Waitman. For the Hawks, they'll be missing Day, Hill and Lewis. The players in the mix for the Doggies are Gardner, Bosinga, Gallagher and Treloar. For the Hawks, their players in the mix are Mitchell, Butler and Ramsden. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the 2 respective sides. For the Doggies, in ruck you got English with the midfields of Bontempelli, Liberatore, Fraser, Richards and Williams. For Hawks, in ruck you got Meek with the midfields of Newcombe, Warpel, Morris, Naish and Amon. Just look at the 2 sides. I like the setup of the Western Bulldogs. English against Meek, and they got the guard midfields of Bontempelli, Richards, elite kicker, and a hard inside mid, Liberatore and Bailey Williams on the outside. Just looking at the setup, I expect the Bulldogs to dominate the midfield and provide a lot of inside 50s for their forwards, and I'm going to tip the Western Bulldogs to beat Hawthorn Hawks by 22 points. And also, Hawthorn have only won 1 game of their last 4. The second game played on the week is on the Friday night at Adelaide Oval between the Adelaide Crows and the Brisbane Lions. The Crows had a good 90-point win against the Sydney Swans, and the Lions beat the Bombers by 18 points. The players injured for the Crows are Crouch, the 2 Murray brothers, and Tyler Welsh. For the Lions, they'll be missing Day, McCarthy, Ryan, Smith, and Starcevich. The players in the mix for the Crows are Laird, Nankervis, and Murphy. For the Lions, their players in the mix are the Big O, McInerney, Gallup, and Breckham. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the 2 sides. For the Crows, you got O'Brien in ruck, with the midfields of Soligo, Rankin, Heatling, Dawson, and Cumming. For the Lions, you got Fort in ruck, with the midfields of Dunkley, Neal, Bailey, Berry, Ashcroft. Just looking at that setup, I like the Brisbane Lions midfield. Got gun players. Dunkley, hard inside mid. Neal, Brownlow medalist, inside mid, can also put a lot on the outside. The run and carry of Zach Bailey, Berry's, elite passing and Ashcroft. I expect the Lions to win a lot of stoppages and clearance and have enough inside 50 to supply Morris, Hitwood and Cameron. I'm going to tip the Lions to beat the Crows by 15 points at Adelaide Oval on a Friday night. The third game played of the week is on the Saturday afternoon between Richmond and Sydney Swans. Richmond had a devastating 3-point loss to the Giants, whereas the Sydney Swans were totally embarrassed by the Adelaide Crows and lost by 90 points at home. Players injured for the Tigers are Armstrong, Cornelia, Dow, Gibcus, Hawthorn, Laylaw, Shaw and Smiley. For the Swans, they'll be missing Amadi, Andrews, Gordon, McDonald, Papley and Vicks. The players in the mix for the Tigers are Bolter, Ryan, Tracy and Olga. For the Sydney Swans, their players in the mix are Florent, Patton, Francis, Fox, Cunningham and Mills. Just look at the two sides, especially Sydney Swans. They've been struggling, had a bad loss against the Crows last week. Richmond were very competitive against GWS Giants and were very unfortunate to lose that game. They had a good start, but the Giants slowly clawed their way back. And both sides are pretty even on paper, but Sydney, they've got some key players out there. Forward line, no McDonald, no Amadi, no Papley. That's some serious goal kicking missing. And I'm going to tip Richmond in a close one to beat Sydney Swans by 8 points. The next game is between Geelong and Gold Coast Suns. Geelong had a good win against West Coast Eagles, and Gold Coast very disappointed. They lost to Fremantle Dockers at home. The players injured for the Cats are Bowers, Conway, Edwards, Hoffman, Kodzatski and Moyler. For the Suns, they'll be missing Ballard, Berry, Graham, Himmelberg, Johnson, Noble, Rogers and Weller. The players in the mix for the Cats are Dangerfield, that's a big one, Stevens, Wiltshire and Buse. For the Suns, their players in the mix are Jepson, Reid and Vara. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the two sides. For the Cats, you got Stanley in ruck with the midfielders of Smith, Atkins, Lickas, Holmes and Dempsey. For the Suns, you got Litz in ruck with the midfielders of Miller, Anderson, Rao, Closely, Furini. Both sides have awesome midfield, but I like the Cats. You got this run and carry of Smith and Holmes, and you got the Dempsey, who's magnificent on the wing, provides a lot of hard running from defense and offense. And then you got the flexibility of Lickas, who can also go and ruck. I expect Geelong to get more inside 50s, and they can also rotate Dangerfield in the midfield. Therefore, I expect the Cats to beat Gold Coast Suns by 12 points. The next game is between GWS Giants and Port Adelaide Power. The Giants snuck home against Richmond Tigers by 3 points, and the Power, they had to bye. The players injured for the Giants are Cunningham, Cogniglio, Daniels and Stringer. For the Power, they'll be missing Crockham, Farrell, Horn Francis, Jones, Lai, Lukosius, Marshall, Moss, Sin and Walsh. What a big out. So many injuries for the Power. Where the game will be won at, it's the Giants full line or the Power's defense. For the Giants, up forward, you have Cadman, Hogan, Jones, Thomas, Brown and Toby Green. In defense for the Power, you got Evans, Rosie, Burgoyne, Burton, Alia and Sir Thatchard. Just looking at the Giants full line, you got the two marking forwards of Hogan, top 5 in the Coleman medal with young Cadman, and you got the class small medium forwards of Toby Green and then Darcy Jones and Thomas. And I expect the Giants forwards to have too much class and flair against the Power and kick a lot of goals. I'm going to tip the Giants to beat the Port Adelaide Power by 22 points. The next game, played on a Sunday afternoon, is between North Melbourne and West Coast Eagles. This game is played at Hands Oval in Western Australia. The players injured for the Kangaroos are Archer, Bergman, Goda, Tucker. For the Eels, they'll be missing Cripps, Jamison, McGovern, Always, Sheed, Waterman and Yo. The players in the mix for the Kangaroos are Scott, Dersma and Marley. For the Eagles, their players in the mix are Gross, Shanahan, Davis and Precacelli. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of two respective sides. For the Kangas, you got Xavier in ruck. Then you got the midfielders of Wardlaw, Power, LDU, Simpkin and Stevens. For the Eagles, you got Flynn in ruck with Hu, Reid, Kelly, Hunt and Hutchinson in the midfield, I should say. Just look at the two ruck midfield setup. I love Xavier over Flynn. And you got the bustling hard Wardlaw and gunplay in the LDU and Captain Simpkin. Therefore, I expect the Kangaroos to win the midfield, stoppages and clearances. And there'll be a lot of inside 50s for the North Melbourne forwards of Larkey, Zerha and Curtis to kick plenty of goals. And I'll tip the Kangaroos to beat West Coast Eagles by 18 points. The next game, played on a Sunday twilight at the MCG, is between Carlton and Essendon. Last week, the Blues had to bye, and Essendon had a competitive 18-point loss to the Brisbane Lions on a Friday night. The players injured for the Blues are Cottrell, Cowan, Kemp, Newman, Smith, Williams. For the Bombers, they'll be missing Brian, Cox, Sam Draper, Edwards, El Harley, Hayes, Jones, Langford. Now you can add Ben McKay to this list. The wing, Reed, Ridley. So many players out, and we won't be able to see the two McKay twins play against each other. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield setup for two respective sides. For the Blues, in ruck, you got DeConing with the midfielders of Sarah, Hewitt, Cripps, Walsh and Doherty. For the Bombers, you got Goldstein in ruck with the midfielders of Caldwell, Durham, Merritt, Clark and Dersma. If we look at the two sides, you expect DeConing to dominate against Goldstein, who's been a great veteran player. Then in midfield, you have players like Cripps, big body inside mid, and you got outside runner of Walsh and George Hewitt, who also goes inside. And Sarah has two-way running back and forwards to offense and defense. Whereas Bombers, you got Caldwell, Dersma, speed and second gamer, Angus Clark, the nephew of Matthew Clark. And just looking at that, I expect the Blues to win the midfield, and therefore they can provide enough inside 50s to their twin forwards of Kerno and Mackay. I'm going to tip Carlton to beat the Bombers by 11 points. The last game, played on a Monday, is the King's birthday game between Melbourne Demons and Collingwood Magpies. The players injured for the Demons are Hoare, McAdam, Moitz Wakeford and Spargo, whereas the Magpies will be missing DeGoey, Harrison, Jow, Johnson, McRae, Maynard, McInnes and McStay. The players in the mix for the D's are Van Rooyen, Henderson and Adams. For the Maggies, their players in the mix are Steen, Markov and Hayes. Where the game will be won at is also the ruck midfield setup for this game as well. For the Demons, you got Gordon ruck with the midfields of Oliver, Sparrow, Petrarca, Chandler and Langland on the wing. For the Magpies, you got Darcy Cameron ruck with the midfields of N. Dacos, Long, Penalby, Sidebottom, Cripps. Just looking at the midfield, I like the Collingwood midfield. They've just got so many class players. You got the smartness of Penalby, Sidebottom, good IQ, and gun young player Nick Dacos, who's in my top 3 for the Brownlow. I give the edge to the Collingwood's midfield, hence the forwards of the Collingwood players of Elliott, who had 5 goals on the weekend, Bobby Hill, Mychek, Membray, McCree. I expect them to kick a lot of goals, and I'm going to tip Collingwood to easily win by 23 points. My tips for round 13 are the Doggies to beat the Hawks on the Thursday night, the Lions to beat the Crows at Adelaide Oval on a Friday night, and the following home teams to win their home games are Richmond, Geelong, the Giants, the Kangaroos and Carlton. And finally, Collingwood to beat Melbourne Demons on King's birthday. Thank you for watching my video, and it will be appreciated if you can subscribe and comment to my videos. Hopefully you enjoyed my video, and see you next time. Cheers or bye.